Thank you so much. Um, it's my pleasure to have another teaching for Tushita and to be part of this special program for Tushita, especially because it's the 50th year, right? That Tushita is flourishing. Tushita has become 50 years old. It's seeing Eva, we say, right? So Venerable Khyentse asked me to come up with a topic for these teachings, and every time when she asked me that, I have to think what is going to be helpful. And what came to my mind, especially thinking about Lama Zopa Rinpoche and the way that he shows us to teach Buddhism, is a title in the sense of being empowered by wisdom and compassion, or empowering oneself with wisdom and compassion. And one of the reasons that came to my mind was that during my time of studying and practicing the Dharma, there have been many times that there was doubt in my mind. Is it asking myself what is beneficial to do at this moment in time? There were also moments that I wasn't sure about the Dharma practice, that I thought, is this really the best thing that I can do? Why isn't it better if I do this or do that? Or if I just focus on the study of the Dharma, then I can only use my time for that. I will not have time to learn any other skills that could be useful in life. And so, and then there were times that I, questioned, like, should I act now or should I hold back? Or especially in situations where I felt that I was taken advantage of, or where I experienced something that for me appeared like abuse, then is it like, do I do something? Do I speak up? Do I not speak up? Do I just be quiet? Or do I say something but not everything? How do we find that balance, and how can we use the Dharma so that we feel strong and confident that what we are practicing is a way forward, and always a way forward. So today I thought I'm going to share some of my thoughts on this, in the hope that I can inspire you to use every aspect of Buddhism and how to put it into practice, and not just for yourself, but also, for others. And when we are practicing Buddhism and doubt is coming in the mind, to never give up. So that is my hope, that I can inspire you with this talk. And so then maybe to start, we take a couple of minutes to relax the mind, to allow the mind to be fully present in where we are right now. So for that, you can just close your eyes and make sure that you sit comfortably. And then what we always do is that we bring our mind to the present moment. We bring our mind to our body and to our breath. Knowing that when the mind is in the present moment, it cannot produce delusions. It cannot produce any mental disturbances. But instead, it will settle down the mind. So any disturbances that are there from before, they can settle down. And then we can set a good motivation. For instance, we can think that whatever we learn, whatever benefit we receive today, that may become a cause for our potential of wisdom and compassion to grow. So that we feel empowered within ourselves, but also that we can be of greatest benefit to others. And so with that, we can start. And then before we can talk about what does it mean to be empowered, we can look into what prevents us from feeling empowered, and I'm going to ask that question to you. It's like, I'm sure that you all, we all sometimes have the feeling like, what am I going to do now? I feel weak. I feel that I don't know what to do. I feel that people are walking over me. I feel any kind of feeling in which we feel weak, not strong, What is happening in our mind? What prevents us from feeling strong, from feeling empowered? And so you can write it in the chat if you want. And then we can take that into our talk from today. Fear can make us feel disempowered, or the thought, I'm not good enough. We feel that we don't have enough self-confidence. We feel that the thoughts of I can't do this, or this is too much for me, or I don't have the capacity to do this. Past experiences, past conditioning can make that we feel maybe not good enough. Maybe we feel incapacitated. We feel that we have lack of support. That makes that we feel that we're not in our power. We can have too much worrying going on in our mind, so that the mind is, there's too much mental engagement, which disempowers us. We have doubt that we're not capable. We feel a lack of control over what is going on, both around us and inside us. So we don't have maybe enough tools to analyze what is going on. We feel a lack of agency, like something is being forced upon us, so that we don't have a free will to say, for instance, no, I can't do that, or no, I don't want to do that, or no, my path forward is in another direction. We don't feel in control. We are too easily distracted. Very good. So these are all reasons that we cannot go to what we feel our power, right? We feel disempowered, or we are overwhelmed by the present world condition, especially COVID, wars, climate change. And I mean, it is like one disaster after the other is following each other up. Right? It's like it keeps us in the fear all the time. We don't have any opportunity or any space to calm down and to relax and to get back to where we do feel strong within ourselves. And so whether the feeling of I'm not being empowered is coming from, whether that is coming from inside us, whether that is coming from outside us, nobody of us feels happy when that happens, isn't it? It makes us weak. It makes that we can't think properly. It makes that we do not know how to move forward. And it can also sometimes be that when we have these situations arising, that we maybe don't even feel confident in Buddha's teaching. We might even think about, what is Buddhism saying about this? I should be non-violent. No, no, no. Sometimes you should use violence, right? We sometimes say that I should use violence. Even the Tibetans sometimes say that to His Holiness. Why don't you let us use some violence in order to stop this situation? We might doubt the law of cause and effect, like, why is this happening to me? This cannot be true. This cannot be real. This cannot be how things should be. This is wrong. I want to, and then in order to change things, we're not sure how to use that law of cause and effect. Or we might not believe in certain aspects of the teachings, like emptiness. We hear these teachings, these profound teachings on emptiness. And then we think, oh, but not sure if it's true. Maybe also karma, not sure if it's true, right? How do we know that it is true? And then, while we are having these teachings, what is actually most beneficial to use in this situation? Also there, we're maybe not sure. How do we choose how to move forward? So there are things within ourselves that can make that we don't feel empowered, in terms of not trusting our own capacity, not being confident about our own capacity. There are things around us that make that we feel not empowered, maybe lack of support, maybe due to conditioning. And then there are things with respect to maybe Buddha's teachings that make that we feel, not empowered, not sure what to do. And so when things like this occur and we're going to indulge in that, the mind goes around, why me? Why is this happening? Oh, I can't do it. Oh, I'm not good enough. And we keep repeating that. Every time we repeat it, we become more weak. True? We become more weak. We take our own power away, So this we need to be aware of. It is not helpful to think, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it, right? You can think that one time and then catch yourself and say, okay, is that thought valid? Is that true? I can't do it. I maybe cannot do it today, but is there a way that I can help myself to be able to do it in the future? Right? We can start changing our mind in that way. I'm just going to read a little bit what somebody says in the chat. What should one do when someone you love takes you for granted and uses you for their convenience? Yeah, we'll get through that. So in order to empower ourselves, empowering oneself is a little bit a word that comes, that we can see used a lot in the world of coaching or, life coaching or spiritual coaching or however you want to name it. And if we look into these systems and say, okay, what do you need from, if we use that, what do we need in order to feel empowered? And then, it comes up, I just Google on the internet and I say, what do we need in order to be empowered? And I get up and then what shows up is a list of conditions that could be useful. So for instance, it says we need to recognize our abilities. And then we need to increase our knowledge and abilities. And we will go into these more in detail. Then we need to know how to set our goals. And it is also good to have a supportive community. Then we need to feel confident to speak our mind, to be assertive, to be truthful. And then we also need to we need to know how to take care of ourselves in a healthy way. And then we need to have good teachers. And maybe, Lama Zopa I think he would put that on number 1, to have good teachers. So if we apply these points to Buddhism, or if we apply Buddhism to these points, how can we use Buddhism in order to empower ourselves? And so the first one is that we recognize our own abilities. And in order to recognize our abilities, I think we need to accept where we are. We need to know where we are right now. Sometimes, especially when we are people pleaser, we might think that we are more renounced or more compassionate or more wise than we are in actuality, right? We are used to give, we are used to renounce our own needs in order to, and we let the needs from others to be more important than our own needs. But by doing that, it can be that at a certain point we get tired. You know, we feel like I'm just giving, 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 and nothing is coming to me. Nothing, I also have my needs and nobody's taking care of me. So we might overestimate our own capacity of giving, of compassion. And if you look deeper into that, why do we do that? Why do we give more than we can in actuality? You know, and it can be that deep inside we actually underestimate our own ability. For instance, we think, I'm not good enough. Maybe we have low self-esteem. You know, we think bad about ourselves, or we think that if we would show others who we truly are, then others are not going to love us. They're not going to stay with us. You know, so we always give more than we can give in actuality. So it can also be that we believe that something is wrong with us. You know, so we feel that we need to kind of cover up or make up for a lack that we experience in ourselves. And so then we give more than is healthy for us. And so when that happens, we might feel that we are doing exactly what Buddha's teachings is asking. You know, we are compassionate, we are renouncing our own needs. But if it's not coming from a healthy basis within ourselves, we might actually do things that are depleting us of our energy, right? So then we have to make some small corrections in what we are doing. So the first place where to start is that we are honest with ourselves. You know, I'm sure that many of you are giving more than maybe you feel is healthy sometimes, right? So how do we say, oh, I actually can't do that. This is actually too much for me, without becoming lazy, right? Without sweeping to the other side, without. So accepting where we are right now means that we stay. Sometimes I have the feeling that if we do not accept where we truly are, we run a little bit faster than we can do in actuality. We are pushing ourselves a little bit more than is comfortable for us. Pushing ourselves sometimes is no problem, but pushing yourself all the time, you know, that becomes a problem. So if we have that tendency, we have to become aware of that. And then we have to check, you know, why do I give so much more? Maybe I'm not such a fantastic, compassionate person as I thought I was. Or maybe I'm not so compassionate as I wish I could be. And then accepting that and embracing yourself where you are with your own limitations. And then you can make more peace with where you are at that moment. Then you can connect with yourself as you are in reality. Right? Then you connect with your reality. And when we connect with our reality, we are walking in the pace that suits us of where we are. You know, we are not asking more from ourselves than we can give in actuality. I think that makes us more healthy. Right? I think that when we become more real, more connected to reality, that we become more true to ourselves. And so in order to get there, especially if we have feelings of low self-esteem or that we're not good enough or that something is wrong with us, we can contemplate our Buddha nature. Right? We all have that beautiful inner goodness from which we can let grow our potential for wisdom and compassion limitless. But in order to do that, we need to connect with that, and we need to, which means that we need to feel good about ourselves. We need to feel okay with who we are. Right? If we ask too much from ourselves, we actually disconnect from our Buddha nature. True. Sometimes we might think if I run a little bit faster than I can, I'm living up to my Buddha nature. But I would question that. I think we run away from our Buddha nature when we do that. You know, I think knowing our Buddha nature also means that we although we have that fantastic potential, today I can only connect with this so much, or today I can only live up to that so much and not more than that. I think that is healthy. And the more we connect with reality as it is, with where we are right now, the more we can connect with the subtleties of reality itself. Right? If we are running too fast, if we are doing too much, we are actually disconnecting from our nature. And when we are disconnected from our nature, we don't really observe what is going on. Right? But the more we connect with our nature, the more we can start opening up and observing of what is. And when we connect with that, we get more information about reality and about the subtleties of reality. Somebody, Zara says, Venerable, when we feel anger arise powerfully in the moment and it feels so difficult to control our tongue and reactions, is there a momentary antidote? Should we leave the situation and lock ourselves away for a little bit? I'm afraid this should not lead to building resentment eventually. So when anger arises in the moment and you feel that you're going to lose control, then maybe it is time to run away and hide for a little bit. Definitely not open your mouth and let it all come out. But you have to check, sometimes we feel the heat arising within us. But when we would speak, then we only use constructive words, for instance, Then we can question, is that really anger, or is there a force behind our emotion or our feelings, or is there a force inside me? Is there something that needs to be said, right? So I can speak truthfully, I can speak even kindly, but it can be coming from a place where internally I'm boiling, right? Something is boiling, something is cooking, something needs to get out. So I think when that is the case, you can say things, even when it is coming from a place where you feel quite heated up inside. You still can have control. But if the mind becomes uncontrolled and you're going to say things that you're going to regret afterwards, then I think it's better to hold back in that moment and sit for a while with the unpleasant feelings that cause that anger to arise. Right? Because when anger arises in the mind, when it is real anger, there is always a suffering in the mind. True. Anger is never coming from a place of happiness. Anger is always coming from a place of suffering. And when anger arises, anger is actually a forceful way to move away from that suffering, to separate ourselves from that suffering. So when we allow ourselves to connect with that suffering, and instead of focusing on the anger, we say, what is actually hurting inside me? What am I feeling inside me? And you connect with that suffering and you have the courage to feel that suffering, to experience that suffering. Then often the anger will subside and you can more talk to that other person coming from the place of being hurt. And then you can be more constructive. You're not coming from an emotional place, but you're expressing what is going on inside you. Yes. I'm going to wait a little bit with the questions until the end, because I know that some questions, they cover what I want to discuss later. And instead of going with the questions, maybe we better discuss in a kind of structured way. And then from there, we can answer the question. I hope that that is okay with you. But with the anger, that is, and we will come back to that later also, how to take care of ourselves, because that is part of empowering ourselves. So the better we understand our minds and the better we understand what is going on, We know how to use the mind. We know how to, when to stand up for ourselves and when to let things go, when to remove ourselves from a situation and when to actually stay. These qualities, this skill for me, in order to develop them, we need a lot of thinking about what to do in certain situations. And so when we are in a situation that we feel disempowered, we can reflect upon our own qualities and also our power to change our circumstance. So I started with saying it is good to accept where we are right now. And acceptance doesn't mean that we can't do anything. We accept the situation as it is right now in the present moment. But with respect to the future, we can create the causes and conditions for positive change, right? It is not, acceptance doesn't mean, oh, I can't do anything, I have to accept. Buddhism says I have to accept. Acceptance is a state of mind where we are fully aware of where we are right now and that we are honest with that. Right? And then we can say, okay, this is my situation right now. I accept that right now. I'm not fighting it. I'm not covering it up. I'm not pretending it is something else than it is. But then how do I move forward from this? And sometimes when we are in difficult situations, it can be that, just the example, we get very angry. But it can also be that we freeze, when we have a lot of stress, maybe the overwhelm that we experience with respect to the situation in the world at the moment, we can get the feeling of freezing, like, I don't know what to do anymore. I cannot move in any direction. I can't even think about what I can do. And so if that happens, it is good to analyze the situation and that you wonder, what do I need to come out of this paralysis? And even when you cannot change the situation yourself, you can think about how you are stuck and wonder what you can do in this situation. There is always something that we can do, right? We can always generate a thought. If there is nothing that I can do about my external situation, I still have my thinking. I'm still master of my thinking. And I can decide that I'm going to use this moment where it seems that I can't move in any direction. I'm going to use that to send positive thoughts, either to myself being in this difficult situation or to the people who are with me in this difficult situation. What we also can do when we are in a difficult situation and when we are frozen, the reaction of freeze often comes from, it is an attempt to separate from what is actually going on, right? It is a survival mechanism in which we say, I need to disconnect from this. It's too much. It's too much. So if we would be able to bring our mind to the situation and then say, how can I accept or even embrace this situation? Right? This is happening to me. I'm sitting here, totally frozen, don't know what to do. And then I'm going to be okay with that. That's just where I am right now. Okay. This is something that maybe we can think the Buddhas are giving this to me in order to let me discover ways that I can work with my mind, so that I don't have to be stuck in that frozenness, but I can make something move, even if I can just move my mind. So then we can also think about what are my strengths, in this situation, what are my weaknesses in this situation, and being realistic with that. I think we can already come out of our, the feeling of feeling completely disempowered. Right? If I have control about my thinking, I'm already less disempowered, even if I can't do anything verbally or I can't do anything physically, but I can think something about a situation. right? I'm already empowering myself. True. So knowing and believing that you can do something, is a very good first step in empowering yourself and coming out of the feeling of being powerless. And then another thing that we can do is we can, be honest with our skills, with our knowledge, with our abilities, and then say, how can I increase that? We are having this limitless potential for wisdom and compassion. And so every day of our life, in every situation, we can think of what can I do that is going to help me to increase my potential for wisdom and compassion, or not just the potential, my ability for wisdom and compassion. What can I do? Right? And to improve our compassion, Lama Zopa Rinpoche has given us so many teachings and so many methods that we can use in order to improve our compassion. And one of the things that he has given us is the method to transform a suffering life into happiness. So that is a practice that you can find on the FBMT website, in which every morning you recite certain prayers and you contemplate verses from the 8 verses of mind training, and also from Shantideva, that is going to help you to develop the mind of bodhicitta, the mind that wishes to develop the full potential of wisdom and compassion in order to be of greatest benefit to sentient beings. And so you can use that, or you can use other methods that you find in Lhundup Rim in order to develop the bodhicitta mind. Or you can, for instance, engage every day in an act of kindness. If you think, oh, this bodhicitta is too much, it's too far, you can say, okay, you know what? Every day I'm going to do at least one act of kindness. Random kindness, maybe kindness for strangers, right? Maybe you're going to do something that you can see, or, the stranger is having a kind of a problem. I'm going to help. Or maybe you see someone having a coffee and you think, oh, you know what? I'm going to pay for that. And I'm going to disappear and they will not know who paid for that. Right? These acts of kindness can give you a great feeling of satisfaction, a great feeling of empowerment. And at the same time, you do good for the world. You can also think about doing something for people that are not so nice to you, instead of returning whatever they are doing with some nastiness or a cold silence. You can also think about, okay, how can I repay that with kindness? Can I say something nice? Can I give them a little present? Sometimes if there is a lot of tension between two people, just giving a little present can totally transform that. So use that knowledge, right? And if you can do that, although you feel not so happy inside with that person, although you might feel hurt, then see that when you repay that with kindness, how empowers that you? You feel strong about yourself, or yeah, they can hurt you, whatever they want. But you don't have to react to that. And you can even act upon that in the opposite way as that they maybe expect, and maybe that you yourself expect. Repay their rudeness with your kindness. And then you can also be kind to yourself, right? Being aware of what you need. Being aware of what gives energy to you. Gives you the energy to love even more. Right? Sometimes, I don't know, I did that a lot in the beginning. The bodhicitta, you feel like, oh, I need to work for sentient beings. And sincerely, for me, working for the benefit of sentient beings gives me a lot of happiness. But I would exaggerate that a little bit, so I would keep working. And I did not really know what I needed. And I just thought, oh, if other people are happy, then my needs are fulfilled. But if you are a little bit disconnected from your own needs, at a certain point you get too tired and you feel like you get maybe resentment, and you feel like, people are taking advantage of you. And these are all signs that you are not fully connected with what you need yourself, or you're not nourishing your own needs enough. So you can look at that and develop your knowledge and abilities with respect to yourself. That's also very important. And then in order to increase our knowledge and abilities, we can also improve our wisdom. Reflecting on the impermanent nature of reality, or reflecting on the empty nature of reality. And then the promise that is included within that. So if we reflect on impermanence, and we are, for instance, in a very difficult situation, then by thinking about impermanence, we know that that situation is not going to last. Right? And what comes to my mind now is Lama Zopa Rinpoche, who then says, for instance, when you have a bad disease, when you, for instance, have cancer, then he says, well, at least it will be finished when you die, right? It's not going to last forever. It will be finished, even if it is when you die. But you can think, this is not going to last, right? Nothing lasts in life. Everything changes. Change comes, change happens in every moment. We don't even have to do anything for change to happen. And so when we are in a difficult situation, sometimes we feel like I need to do something. I need to change something. But what if we contemplate that the situation or impermanence will change the situation itself? It's not that I have to do it, right? Doesn't also mean that I have to do nothing. But what if I see that difficult situation coming from certain causes and conditions caused by karma, my karma, and by me witnessing that, by me experiencing that karma slowly gets finished. And at a certain point, when the causes and conditions for that situation are finished, the situation will be finished. I don't have to do anything for that. Right? So we need to think about that. Sometimes we feel when we are in a difficult situation, I have to do something. If I don't do something, I will be stuck here forever. But that's not true. Yeah. If we really think about impermanence, then we know that that is not true. So somehow when we are in problems, our mind thinks automatically, this is going to last forever. Right? This is not going to change. And we also have trouble seeing the change, especially when change happens on the subtle level. Right? It can appear that something has been stuck for a long time, and it has been like that for a long time, and it's not going to change. But that is just because we can't see the more subtle working of impermanence and also of karma. So by thinking about impermanence, we maybe also can think more about how can I do something skillfully? What are the causes and conditions that led to this situation? And how can I contribute to causes and conditions that make this karma to go away more quickly? I can think like that. But going into the situation, into the problem, and trying to change it, that we should question if that is really useful. Sometimes it actually creates only more problems. Right? I hope you know what I mean. So thinking about impermanence helps us to develop our wisdom mind. And then we can think about emptiness, Situations do not exist inherently, which means that the situation that occurs to my mind is related to my mind, is coming from my mind. So what can I do in order to change my perspective? For instance, instead of seeing the situation as a problem, what if I say, okay, how can I change what I see or this situation into something that is going to be of benefit to me? How can I change looking at the situation so that it becomes for me an opportunity for learning, an opportunity for developing my wisdom, an opportunity to develop my compassion? Right? How can I use this situation? And so when we can change the way that we perceive a situation, and instead of becoming the victim of the situation, we take the power in our own hand and say, okay, what can I do? How can I use this for my own growth? Then maybe we get more self-appreciation. We can say, oh, wow, I did that. I used that situation and I grew from that. I used it to develop my potential. I used it to learn certain skills. Wow, well done, right? We can say to ourselves, well done. When we can say that, we empower ourselves, right? And so then another thing that we can do in order to feel empowered is that we set certain goals. And in Buddhism, we have this goal, I want to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. And that goal, sometimes, I don't know, I had that sometimes coming up, it feels like so huge. What can I do today in order to become enlightened? Really, I feel like I cannot do anything, because enlightenment is so huge and it is so many lifetimes away for me to achieve it. And I don't even know what I can do today. So it can be that it is overwhelming to have this huge goal. And it can, I don't know how to say that, maybe be an excuse for us to feel discouragement, that we feel like, oh, I don't have the capacity to do that. Or we maybe feel like, oh, it's so much like, oh, no, I can't do that today. I'll postpone till tomorrow. I'll try it tomorrow. And so when we feel so overwhelmed, it can be that it triggers our laziness, right? The discouragement that we feel in Buddhism is called a laziness. It can also feel that it is so huge, that goal of achieving enlightenment, that we feel like, well, although that is a goal, but today I first need to do this and this and this and this, and we distract ourselves with all kind of worldly activities, and we put the wish to become enlightened a little bit on the back burner, or any practice that we can do in order to create causes and conditions for that enlightenment, we put it a little bit on the back burner. Also, that is part of laziness, right? And so if that is the case, if that is for you the case, that you feel that that goal of enlightenment is so huge that it actually discourages me more than that it empowers me, what you can do is, one thing that you can do is that you take a perspective that moves a little bit away from this life. Sometimes I visualize that I go up to the sky and I see not just this life or the mind in this life, but I see many, many lifetimes. And then I think, okay, this goal of becoming enlightened is not about this life. It's about so many lives. And so in this lifetime, I can do a little bit that is going to contribute to that big whole, right? But in this life, although when I became ordained, I thought, I'm going to get enlightened in this life, right? We are told that we can do that. But slowly, I feel like, oh, I don't think it's going to happen in this life. But that's okay. But I can contribute. I can create causes and conditions every day that is going to contribute to eventually reaching that goal. And when I take that big overview of many, many, many lifetimes, It gives me a perspective that I can hold and that I feel like, yes, this is going to happen in many lifetimes. And in this lifetime, I can only do what I can do right now. Right? And then where I'm going to end up at the end of this life, I don't know. I don't know. But when I look back, I can say I used my time to the best of my ability. So one of the advantages to have this huge goal of becoming enlightened is that it helps us to move away from being motivated by the 8 worldly dharmas, right? If we have a goal which is from this life, often it is attachment that is the motivator behind that, right? And if you look into the way that life coaches work, it is always about this life. And I think that is one of the biggest disadvantages of life coaches. It's only about this life. So why is that so bad? Achieving something in this life. In itself, there is nothing bad with achieving something in this life. But if our focus is on just achieving something in this life, what motivates us is attachment. Attachment to the benefits of this life, attachment to having more success or more wealth or more praise or more whatever in this life. That is coming from attachment. That is coming from the 8 worldly dharmas. And when we are motivated by attachment, the result of whatever we are doing is suffering. Right? This is one of the hard lessons that Lama Zopa always taught so clearly. When whatever we are doing in life is only motivated by the 8 worldly dharmas, then the result will only be suffering. And so when we can generate a motivation that goes beyond this life, beyond my own benefit, beyond my self-centeredness, beyond my self-absorption, if I can generate a mind that goes beyond all that, and I'm not motivated by the 8 worldly dharmas, then my actions become a cause for happiness. So this is very important that we think about that. And then having that broad motivation of I want to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of sentient beings, we need to find a way that we can keep that alive and fresh. And one way of doing that is, for instance, by contemplating the nature of the mind, right? That the nature of the mind is that it has existed since the beginning of its time, and it will exist until the end of time, right? It will never stop. The continuity of the mind will never stop. And so by thinking about that huge job of becoming enlightened, but also that hugeness of the mind, we can overcome unrealistic expectations of what we're going to achieve in this life or what we're going to do in this life. Becoming enlightened, sometimes they say we need to be able, this is a long-term process. So we need to be able to sustain that process. So the way that we go about is that we go in a pace that we can continue forever, right? We walk as slow as that is needed so that we can continue forever. And so when we think about the causes and conditions, creating the causes and conditions for enlightenment, we can do that in every moment. Right? Every action we can direct towards enlightenment, but we can make a small step. We don't have to make big actions. If you can, sure. But if you cannot, small actions are also good enough. And so then sometimes, I don't know, I had for a little while, I thought, oh, this enlightenment is so far, but what am I going to do with this life? What am I going to do with this life? Right? And so to see this life completely in line with enlightenment took me quite a long time, But I think now that, if we have the opportunity to study, that with studying, even if we only make imprints, you know, it makes our life most meaningful, because these imprints that we make, and we need maybe time to contemplate and really get convinced of this, but these imprints, they will ripen one day in the realization. And so making imprints and doing study, even if we don't really understand what we are studying, is very, very, very beneficial for the mind. And what we also can do is we can set goals for this life that are in line with the big picture, you know. And I had to think about Lama Ussel, who I heard him one day say, you know, he has this project where he plants trees all over the world. And he said, you know, I have this organization with so many students, and these students, they want to meditate and they want to practice Dharma. But for them to be able to do that, they need, first of all, oxygen to breathe. Right? So what is producing oxygen? The tree. So having that huge vision of, I'm taking care of all the people of the organization by planting trees, right? He has a huge motivation. And you can see that that motivation is in line with becoming enlightened, right? So then you can do any positive activity in this world if you have this broad vision of how it fits within your enlightenment. And so you have to look into your own abilities and into your own situation, how you can do that for you. You know, what works for you, what is realistic for your life. And then it is important that we have community, right? That we are not the only person, that we don't have the feeling that I'm the only person here in the world who's practicing Dharma, but I don't feel connection with anyone. I don't feel that anyone is doing the same as me. So that feeling of disconnect is it is very important that we overcome that, and that we look for people who have the same values as us, who support us in what we are doing, who appreciate us for what we are doing, who maybe affirm our own inner goodness, but also who challenge us and who challenge our idea, you know. And I know that sometimes people, they live in a place and they feel like, I have nobody around me, you know? Then maybe the only option is that you go online and that you connect with people who are maybe far away, but you feel a connection. Maybe you meet online once a week, once a month, however many times is helpful for you. You can meet as a community, or you can meet with individual people. I don't know, there was when I started to connect in that way, I felt like I have one person in the US, and I have one person in Australia, and I have one person somewhere else in the world. And that's the only thing that I feel really connected to, you know. And so in the beginning, that feels like not much, but there is a connection. And so you nourish these connections, and then slowly, slowly, more people will come, and more people will become part of your community. And it might be that your community, the only thing that is holding the community together is you know. And maybe as long as you feel supported in who you are and in what you want to achieve, it can help you to feel empowered. Very important to have that community. Very important. And so then what we also need to feel empowered is that we know how to take care of ourselves when we are in community, but also when we are with ourselves. You know, we need to be very honest with our own needs, without becoming self-absorbed, right? That is like a very fine line. Sometimes when we are very focused on our own needs, we are too self-absorbed. But there are also people who, especially when they were young, gave up their own needs in order to take care of the needs of others. If you are one of them, you know, it can be that in a certain period of your life, it is very good to focus a little bit more on your own needs and less on the needs of others in order to balance yourself, in order to become more connected to your own energy, right? Our needs are very strong connected to attachment, but if we are disconnected from that, you know, we cannot use that power of attachment that we use to transform, right? We can use that attachment to transform it into a wisdom mind. But in order to do that, we need to be connected with that, right? So people who did disconnect from their own needs when they were very young and have become people pleasers, they might feel for a little time that they're going to be very selfish and only focus on themselves, taking care of their own needs. But maybe they need to learn to set their boundaries. Then maybe they need to learn how to say no in a proper way. Right? And if you know how to do that, I fully trust that from there, the tendency to take care of others will be there, you know, that is not going to disappear. Once you know how to balance yourself and your own needs and taking care of your own energies so that you do not get depleted, you know, once you know how to do that, I'm sure that the wish to take care of others is there. You don't have to be afraid that that is going to disappear. Also in Buddhism, you know, we spoke about if we feel like, oh, I can't do this, or this is too much for me, or I don't have that ability, or we are postponing our actions, you know, we're procrastinating. In Buddhism, there is also the power of relinquishment, the power where we say, oh, now I need to take a break. Right? Taking a break can be very empowering. Knowing when you need to rest, taking that rest so that you become refreshed again and then can go full on, you know, it's very, very important. And then we need to know how to take care of ourselves in terms of practicing self-compassion. Self-compassion I see as in line with renunciation. Self-compassion is the wish for oneself to be free of suffering. Right? Compassion for others is the wish for others to be free of suffering. Compassion for oneself is the wish for oneself to be free of suffering. How do we do that? By stopping our engagement in negative actions and by starting to engage in virtuous action. If we can see that that is the essence of self-compassion, right? Self-compassion is not just giving yourself what you need, coming from attachment. Lama Zopa one time, you know, we were talking about what is that? Lama Zopa never talks about our needs. What is that with our needs? And then in that, we were in a retreat in the US, and I was talking with many people about where is this aspect in Buddhism? We, you know, we have this needs, but Buddhism never talks about it. And then one day Lama Zopa said, he said, what sentient beings really need is enlightenment. And so that gave me some food for thought, like, what is that? Our need, our real need is enlightenment, you know, and if we think about that, enlightenment is the state in which we experience the most happiness that can be experienced. And we are in need for happiness, right? And we are in need for freedom of suffering. And so we need to use our wisdom mind that says, okay, where is happiness coming from? It's not coming from just my attachment, just giving myself what I need in the short term. It's what I really need is freedom from suffering, which means I should stop engaging in negative action. What really gives me happiness is engaging in virtuous action. Okay. So practicing that is a way of practicing self-compassion. And then one very important item within self-compassion, I feel, is that we learn how to sit with negative feelings, unpleasant feelings, right? If we look into how our mind is conditioned, then as soon as unpleasant feelings arise in the mind, we have the tendency to distract ourselves, to push them away, to deny them, to engage in positive actions in order to not have to feel the negative feelings. And when we do that, we keep following our attachment, and we keep following these 8 worldly dharmas, not to have to experience negative feelings. And so being able to be with negative feelings, to bear them, to have the patience to sit through them, makes that the attachment that we now at this moment use in order to distract ourselves from these feelings, that naturally comes down. And it opens up the mind for the reality as it is. And so I find that a very, very powerful tool in order to connect with reality as it is. And also it gives me a lot of insight into that reality by staying connected with reality, by staying connected with what I'm feeling. It gives me insight in what is actually going on. And as soon as that negative feeling subsides, as soon as that has been experienced, I feel that there is always some kind of wisdom that comes to the mind, that suddenly gets it, that suddenly thinks, oh, now I know what to do, right? And if we go back to that question that was just there with respect to anger, then when there is anger in the mind, there is always an underlying suffering. And if we connect with that suffering and we have the courage to really experience that suffering, once that has been experienced, we also know what to do in that situation, what is most skillful in that situation. Then the negative emotion of anger is gone, but instead of that, we have knowledge, right? And I feel that we can connect with a lot of knowledge about reality by connecting with negative feelings. And so another way to practice self-care is that we, when we have a lot of mental engagement, whether that is worry, or whether that is fantasies, or whether that is excessive thoughts with respect to negative experiences. When that happens in our mind, we need to be able to say, well, that I have to stop. That, my thoughts, is not reality itself. We do sometimes experience that, no? That the thinking mind, we confuse that with being reality itself. We have all these ideas or these thoughts going through our minds, and then we think that that is reality itself. But our thoughts have nothing to do with reality itself. Our thoughts are just produced by the mind. They're mainly produced by disturbing emotions. And then we project that onto reality, and then we believe that what we are thinking is reality itself. While in actuality, it is just our disturbing emotions, creating an exaggeration of whatever is happening, whether it's positive or negative. Right? So when that happens in the mind and we see it, we have to say, stop. I need to connect with what is instead of fantasizing of what I think there is. And so how do we connect with reality? By going to the experience and say, okay, my mind is very upset. That must mean I'm feeling something that I don't like. How can I connect with that feeling? So we bring mindfulness to the moment, mindfulness about what we are feeling. And then when negative feelings arise in the mind, then often we have this negative self-talk. We beat ourselves up, or we feel that we are stupid, or we feel that We let people walk over ourselves or something. Then instead of being so negative to ourselves, be kind to yourself. Acknowledge that you are suffering. And say something to yourself that, if you have a very good friend, what would you like your friend to say to you in that moment? And then say that to yourself. Or if you have a very good friend who is experiencing similar suffering as that you are experiencing, what would you say to your best friend? Say that to yourself. Right? If we can do that, the disturbing emotions will, become more quiet. And we will connect more with what we are feeling. And we connect with that more with reality itself. Right? Then we can look into, okay, this is my reality. This is what I'm experiencing. What can I do? Then we can look into the tools that Buddhism is giving us. And so then we can use any topic in the Lamrim, when we contemplate them. It will help us to develop our potential of wisdom and compassion. And so there are many of these topics that I haven't touched yet. The last one is that, some people say that you should learn from the best, right? So within Buddhism, we look for a teacher that we feel like, wow, that teacher has some qualities that I admire. I would love to have some of these qualities, or I would just love to be with a person, close with a person who has these qualities. Just being in their presence is so inspiring. Right? So we can say, okay, I'm gonna find a really good teacher that is inspiring me to become the best version of myself. Right? So what teachers are that? These are teachers who have developed their wisdom and compassion. Right? They know how to control their mind. They know about reality as it is. They know about compassion, and they know how to use that skillfully. And so when you have a role model like that, it's very inspiring. And you can call them to mind every day and be inspired through their example every day. And think, okay, what kind of practice can I do today that helps me to become closer to this teacher? I generate these abilities that he or she has. How can I do that? How can I become like them? Right? And I think when we do that, if we take a role model like that and say, I can become like that because I have the potential to become like that. We are empowering ourselves. And so you can go through the Lamrim and you can touch any topic, and you can see that if you can say, okay, how does that empower me? If I realize my precious human rebirth, how does that empower me? If I realize the advantages of having relying upon the teacher in a proper way, how does it help me? How does it make me stronger? And the more we can see that, the more we feel like, wow, this makes me stronger. This doesn't make me weak. If we can see that thinking about karma and thinking about cause and effect, how that makes us stronger, right? I don't know. For me, it is always finding that fine line. Sometimes I have the feeling, if we have to always find the middle, right? His Holiness says we always have to find the middle. So with any of these topics, we have to find the middle where we feel this actually does make me stronger. This gives me more potential. This gives me more resources to live my life. Right? So the moment that we think, oh, this makes me more weak, or this takes me away from my power, we should look into that and say, is that really true? Sometimes we mistake the force that comes with anger, we mistake that for having a power, right? To be more powerful. I'm more powerful when I'm having more anger or I have more protection. So what if I drop that and I become more soft and gentle? Am I more empowered or less empowered? So we can contemplate that. SK says, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. I say this when I'm encountering difficult emotions. Yes, that's very good. And what you can also do when you encounter difficult emotions, I think what you mean is you encounter difficult feelings, right? Feelings that you don't like. And so when you connect with these feelings, then any emotions that come about independent upon these feelings will naturally also disappear. Yes. So that is what I have to give to you. And if you have any questions, I would be happy to take them. I don't know if I know an answer, but I could try. So somebody said, how do we deal with people who are overconfident? And what is the best way to build confident leadership and make courageous individual to benefit others? People who are overconfident, if we feel they are overconfident, we can also think that maybe deep down inside they are not that confident, right? True. If somebody is over, there is always also a lack. So if you start focusing upon, and overconfidence can sometimes come from a way to cover up the lack of confidence, or it can be an overcompensation of something that is not there. So then when we try to attack that overconfidence, we are actually trying to take away a protection of that person, and that makes the person feel unsafe, and they might react with disturbing emotions. So what you could do is that you connect with that lack that they experience, but might not be aware. So instead of focusing on their overconfidence, you focus on where they are not so confident. Where do they feel that they are not strong? Where do they feel that they are weak? And then you reinforce them there. And so you create a safe space for them. And then maybe they drop at a certain point, they're overconfident. They feel like I don't have to cover up, I don't have to pretend, I'm safe with that person. Right? That's something that you could do. So somebody says, reciting any of the 8 verses that you mentioned, are these part of the Lamrim? The 8 verses of mind transformation, they are not in the Lamrim, but while we recite these verses, we can use Lamrim to contemplate the meaning of the verses. So the 8 verses of mind transformation, you can just Google them and they will come up quite easily. And then to understand their meaning, I don't know, for me, Lama Yeshe Wisdom Archive is a great resource. When you go there, you can find commentaries on any text given by Lama Zopa Rinpoche or Lama Yeshe, or sometimes His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And I know that on the 8 verses, there are a few commentaries there. And so when you read through the commentaries, you can understand the connection with the Lamrim. Yeah. And there is a question from Gonzalo. How important is discipline in the path of empowering oneself, and how to strengthen discipline? I would say, what do you mean with discipline? Is discipline that you continuously do something? Or is discipline a certain activity that you put into practice. Right? We talk, for instance, about ethical discipline, where we say, for instance, I want to abandon the 10 non-virtuous actions, and that is my discipline. And there are days that I can put a lot of energy in that, and there are days that I don't have so much energy, but I'm still practicing the discipline, right? But you might think, oh, that's not so disciplined. To be disciplined, you have to do every day, right? I need to sit every day, half an hour. I need to sit. Which discipline are you referring to?
To the later, to the one that, thank you, to that one that when you you don't do it every day and then you feel guilty.
Right.
But then you say, no, I'm going to do it tomorrow and start again. And how to balance that? Thank you.
Yes. Yes. So sometimes when we put ourselves in the discipline of I have to do this every day, it might be at a certain point that aspects in ourselves start to become a little bit they start nagging. Oh, I don't want to do it, right? I don't feel like it today. And sometimes I feel maybe there's an aspect in yourself, maybe it's just one day, then you just, you do it anyway. But if that nagging feeling keeps happening, I feel there is something inside you that needs some attention. And so you need to give that attention. And maybe you can say, okay, you know what? I'm going to take a break from doing this rigorous discipline. And I'm going to first listen to what is nagging inside me. Right? Maybe some aspect of you needs some extra, you need to connect with that. And by putting yourself in the discipline, you overstep that aspect. You cannot connect with that aspect. Right? So when it keeps nagging, I would say stop your activity or put it a little bit on a, don't be too strict on yourself and start listening what is going on inside. What is that inside that is needing attention? Then give that the attention that it needs. And I'm pretty confident that then you will pick up on your discipline again. Right? Sometimes we need to learn this, right? That we say, today is not a good day, right? So I'll do it maybe a little bit quicker, or I don't go too deep, or whatever. But tomorrow I'm going to come back to it, right? We don't say, tomorrow I will do it, but tomorrow we do it, right? If we say tomorrow I will do it, then tomorrow we say, but today I also don't want to do it. I'll do it tomorrow. That is not what I mean, right? So you become a little bit flexible with yourself and you listen to what you need. Right, that's my way. That is what works for me. If I put myself constantly in the discipline, there is so much of, my mind goes a little bit crazy. And so for me, it works better if I am more flexible, but in the long term, I keep, holding on. This is my practice, and I have to make sure that I keep doing that. All right. Okay. Let me have a look at. There are a few more questions. Let me just go up. How important is, how to realize difference between reality of thought and illusion of thought. What I think is real or just illusion, how to distinguish? Well, what we think is not reality itself. Right? Reality itself is what we experience. And what we think is what we think about that experience. Right? And that thinking can be in accordance with reality, or that thinking is not in accordance with reality. So in general, when we think, that is not reality itself. Then when I start practicing the Dharma and I start studying, then the study is talking about reality itself that I cannot see at the moment or that I cannot experience at the moment. But I can start applying that knowledge to my experience, or I can start applying that knowledge to my life, right? So then I bring my thoughts in line with reality, but they're not reality itself. Right? So at the moment, our reality and the thoughts about reality there is a lot of discrepancy between that. And by studying the Dharma, we bring them more in line with each other. But that doesn't make the thoughts reality itself. Does that make sense, Harry? Then there is a question that the belief of not being good enough can be devastating, including a lot of suffering. Yes. Can you give a practical antidote for when this pops up? So the belief I'm not good enough, I think, has to do with sometimes, you know, when we were very young, we did not always receive what we needed. Sometimes something that we needed was simply not there. Maybe it was some attention, maybe it was some acknowledgement, some connection. And so the lack of that, the lack of having received that, often creates a feeling inside of not being good enough, having a lack inside. And so you need to see that not having received something when you needed it doesn't say anything about you, but it says something about what the other person could provide. Right? So contemplating like that sometimes when you need something and it is not there, you can think, oh, that is because of me. You know, I have done something wrong, or people didn't think I was worthy enough to receive this, or maybe I didn't deserve it, or whatever voice is coming. This is all not true. It's just, you know, maybe your mom didn't have time to give you that. Maybe your dad didn't have time to give you that. Maybe there was a fight with something else. Has nothing to do with you. Right? So thinking, oh, there is a lack, but that lack is not saying something about me. That lack is that there's something was not there when I needed it. Try to think like that and then see. And then sometimes, you know, I think, okay, what is that lack? And how can I give that to myself? I don't know, you could try that. We were talking about laziness, how to overcome laziness when it is really strong every day. So which type of laziness is that? Is that the laziness of procrastination, where you postpone? Or is that the laziness of not thinking that you have the ability? You know, oh, I can't do that. That's too much for me. That's too difficult for me. I don't have the capacity. You know, because for all these lazinesses, there is a different antidote. Okay. It is the procrastination. So the laziness of procrastination often has to do with a mind that is not really in the present moment. You know, a mind that keeps wandering off. And that is a mind that maybe sometimes people say if you have had a lot of negative experiences that you have not digested yet, the tendency to move away from where you are right now, not to engage in activities right now, comes strongly to the mind. You know, so you could, when you see that you are procrastinating, what I sometimes do is then say, okay, what is actually going on right now? How do I feel? And maybe there is a negative feeling sitting inside me that I don't want to feel. I don't want to connect with that. And so by engaging in whatever I need to engage in, I would connect with that feeling. So then I think, no, not today. I don't want to do it today, not now. Right? So being mindful of what you're feeling and reconnecting with that and allowing yourself to feel what you are feeling, practicing self-compassion in that moment, that can be a very good antidote to the procrastination. That's not really a Buddhist answer, but it is an answer that I have experienced. It works. What would Buddhism say? Buddhism would say, think about impermanence and death, you know, that we do not have forever to engage in positive actions. that today is the day that you have the opportunity to do something about your future. And if you don't use that opportunity, it will just be gone. But I think you have to start with what I just said. Do that one first. And then on top of that, you can think about your precious human rebirth and how we can use every day only one time. You know, once the day is gone, it is gone. Can you please recommend a specific prayer I can learn the words to begin my journey with being familiar with Buddhist texts, with the aim to connect deeper to the Lhundup family? Is there value in learning pieces of text by heart? I mean, the Tibetans, they learn so much by heart, you know, and they feel great benefit in doing that. I mean, the 8 verses of mind transformation are very nice. They're not so long, you know, you can do verse by verse. You learn them by heart. Or, for instance, the foundation of all good qualities is a beautiful prayer that you can learn by heart. And with the foundation of all good qualities, you go through the whole Lam-Rim to the whole path to enlightenment. And if you recite that by heart every day, it's very inspiring to practice Dharma in whatever situation occurs in your life during your day. So I would recommend you do these two. The foundation of all good qualities from Lama Tsongkhapa and the 8 verses of mind transformation. Okay. More procrastination. I don't know what that means. Be kind and gentle to yourself, right? Sometimes in the West, especially in the West, we have this, and I think also in India that comes more and more, we are so tough on ourselves, right? And being gentle with yourself doesn't mean that you are weak and that you do not encourage yourself to engage in positive actions, but that you are more real with yourself or more acknowledge where you are. You know, sometimes we are so tough and we expect so much from ourselves, and then we don't live up to it, and then we beat ourselves up. So that stick that is beating ourselves up, that is one that we really have to put down and not use that. Right? Instead, we should nourish ourselves with loving kindness and compassion. And then with an understanding of the teachings, we should engage however much we can every day. Right? It's not that we become lazy. Sometimes we think, oh, I'm going to be lazy when I don't beat myself up. And maybe for a while you do, you know, but I do think when you put down the stick and instead of beating yourself up, you're going to use loving kindness in order to encourage yourself to engage in practicing the Dharma. I think in the long term, you will have a better effect. You know, I think you will. I don't think that the Buddha beats himself up. I think he nourishes himself with loving kindness and right. He's full of loving kindness and compassion. So if we want to become a Buddha, we have to put that stick down one day and learn how to become soft and gentle with the confidence that that doesn't mean that we become weak and we're not going to do anything anymore. Right? And we might have learned early on that if we are not beaten, we're not going to do anything. But I wonder if that is true. I don't think that is true. I think that is just the conditioning. All right. Any more questions? Otherwise, we maybe dedicate. Shall we dedicate? We're going to look at Venerable Lhundup. Okay. Good. Thank you so much for being here. I hope, you know, you got some kind of inspiration in order to look at the teachings maybe in a little bit different way, or again and again and again, and feel like, where is the power? How can I empower myself by practicing this? So that you feel good about yourself, but also that you feel stronger and stronger. Yeah. So let's dedicate whatever merit that we have created by being here together and thinking about this topic, that potential of wisdom and compassion that we all have, that may grow more and more in qualities that we can manifest with our body, speech, and mind, so that eventually they all lead to our enlightenment, that state of mind in which we have realized our potential of wisdom and compassion, which we need in order to be of greatest benefit to all sentient beings, to lead them to their ultimate happiness, the happiness that is free of all suffering. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Venerable Jamyang. I think everybody very happy with so much advice. We can chew on for a long time, I think. Isn't it? Wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
So, I wish you a wonderful day. I know you have puja now coming up.
Yes.
In Nalanda, and a wonderful year ahead since it's the new year. Thank you so much for joining us again here at Tushita, and please, please, please join us again and again. It's your wonderful advice. Everybody's very happy, I think. Yeah, I'm looking at the faces. Thank you so much, Venerable Jamyang.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Take care.
So
Bye-bye.
thank you.
You could. No, I just said bye-bye.
Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. If you're here in India, it's a late hour. If you're in Europe, then it's, I think, perfect timing. In America, you just got up. And tomorrow we have another wonderful Day of Miracles coming, and we have some really special surprises because we were... we have a Geshe Tenzin Soba tomorrow at Tushita at 9 o'clock. And as a preparation for that, we showed the unmistaken child. We put the link on our website, linking to Geshe-la's website. And we showed the movie here today. So we have the unmistaken child right now here at Tushita. So we are so, I don't know, I don't think it's a coincidence. And Lama Punzog actually gets ordained tomorrow. He gets full ordination, and he agreed that right after his ordination, he gets ordination by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and in the afternoon he comes here and gives a talk. To our introductory course people or whoever is in the area, they can just drop into the Gompa, and we make it hybrid. So we're gonna also put it online, and I hope you enjoy. Lama Punzok, Venerable Jamyang knows him maybe more than I do. Jamyang, do you know Lama Punzok? Because he was quite a long time in Australia. Were you still in Australia when he was there?
No, in Australia I didn't see him, but I saw him at Sarah J last year when we did a debate course. He joined us every day in the debate course. Yeah, he's
wonderful.
Very sharp.
Oh, very sharp.
He's very sharp.
Very sharp, very lovely, very charming, perfect English, and really, perceiving our minds, you think like, wow, So we are really looking forward. This is the first time we host Rinpoche for a talk, and he doesn't teach yet, because he's not finished with his studies. He's still quite young, but he's gonna give a talk on the value of studies in the 21st century, because now he's studying at Sarah Monastery. So let's see where he takes it. So if you wanted to join us, we host it at 7 o'clock in the evening, and afterwards at 9 o'clock we host Geshe Sopala, who is, I think, also a very extraordinary being. So I don't think it's a coincidence. It's very, it's beautiful that we have them both tomorrow here together on in one day, and it's Punsok's ordination day, Lama Punsok's ordination day. So that is very special, of course. Thank you so much, everybody. I don't want to keep you longer. So have a good day, a good night wherever you are, and see you hopefully tomorrow or another day of miracle. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye, Venerable Jamyang.
Bye-bye.